Senator Cantwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for this hearing. Obviously, I'd like to talk about prescribed burn and a variety of issues, but I want to mention again that in our state, more than 800,000 acres burned in the 2020 fire season, with over 300,000 of those acres burning in just one day. These have forced hundreds of evacuations of structures and homes. And throughout the West, we are seeing that these are unbelievable numbers, with over 47,000 fires having burned over 8 million acres. And this is not an anomaly. Every year since 2000, we've had an average of 71,000 wildfires and a burn on average of 6.9 million acres. So clearly, we need to do more. And the statistics are telling us we need to have new strategies, and that's why I'm a big supporter of cross-laminated timber and reducing our risk and storing the carbon instead, and helping our rural communities with very long-term timber contracts that if they promise to produce CLT, we will be doing that. And obviously, why I'm a sponsor of 4625, the National Prescribed Fire Act, with Ranking Member Manchin and Senator Wyden. So both of these, I think, are steps in the right direction. I'm also interested in the role that women are playing in our forests and the women in fire aspect of that legislation 4625. So I wonder, Mr. French, if you could address both that issue and what the agency did on the agency tracking provisions of our last act of tracking smoke and public health impacts and being able to measure that. What kind of results did we get?
So on your first question, are you specifically asking about the agency's focus on CLT and those, or about our focus on diversifying the ranks of our fire organization?
Women in fire. Sorry.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
It is a particular focus of ours as an agency right now to create a work environment that not only recruits and retains a more diversified space for folks, including in our fire organization, but especially a place that is, again, we can recruit but retain. It's welcoming and valuing women in the fireplace. We recognize the history we've had in this, and we have taken many proactive and deliberate and concrete steps under the leadership of Chief Christensen to change that vector. And I'm quite proud of the approach the agency has been taking. I grew up in the fire organization. I certainly understand and have seen many of the issues that our agency's been plagued with, and I'm proud to be part of the different cultural change and mindset of where we need to go. In terms of tracking the specifics on air quality that you spoke of, I will get back to you on that, because I don't have those right at my hands right now.
Okay, well, we think that's a really, I wondered if Susan Jane Brown could also add to about the women in fire. She had any comments?
Sure, thank you, Senator Cantwell. Like Mr. French, I agree that the Forest Service has come a long way in terms of welcoming, in particular, women into the fire corps. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done still. And the prescribed fire legislation does take another step forward by encouraging the recruitment and retention of women in fire, which I think is great. Some of the changes that are also being proposed in terms of shifting seasonal fire employees to permanent fire employees is also very helpful to many women in fire who do want a career in fire, but also have other responsibilities in terms of caring for the home. And so this legislation provides some additional flexibility, and I think will incentivize attracting women to the fire corps. One of the suggestions for an amendment to the legislation that I proposed in my written testimony is to really think holistically about how we approach fire. And many times, the way that we see how women are represented in the workforce is by looking at mascots. And so this legislation does utilize an existing mascot called Burner Bob, which I understand is a very effective program down in the Southeast. I would suggest perhaps thinking about a different mascot by the name of Burner Betty. This would be a female character in fire, and as a mascot, as a public relations and a public education tool, would be really a forward-facing and forward-thinking representation of the Forest Service's commitment to being a more diverse workforce, including in fire. So I put that forward for your consideration.
Thank you. That's so helpful. I want to point out, just because we've done so much work with the Coast Guard on a similar issue of workforce issues, there are policies we can put in place to encourage more diverse workforce, and we should consider that. I know I'm out of time, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to note for Mr. French, your testimony on the Tongass proposal, that it would hard to review the National Environmental Policy Act and issue a schedule or offer any sales in 21-22. So I concur on that point. Hard to, not a fan of the proposal overall, but also don't think you could even deliver on it. But okay, to the BLM, I don't understand the department trying to, it's very important that we not disturb the Arctic Wildlife Refuge habitat of polar bears. And I think the plan relies heavily on an unreliable polar bear surveillance technology that recently found that there was like a missed 55% of those known dens. So I'm going to submit a question to the record for BLM on that, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much.
Without objection.